There are many times when law enforcement fails to serve justice and catch a killer. That's when a lot of vigilantes take matters into their own hands and seek revenge for their family. Here are 4 vigilantes who decided to wield justice themselves. It's November 25th, 2016. Basani is sitting with 2 of her sister's friends, Lamia Brown and Samantha Rivera. Basani's sister, 20-year-old Sarah Butler, has been missing for 3 days, and the police didn't really make any progress that could help find her sister. The only thing the police found was Sarah's abandoned van, which she took 3 days ago on the 22nd to supposedly meet with a friend, a meeting she would unfortunately never come back from. Inside the van, they found the red hair extension that Sarah usually wears in her hair, a discovery which faded any doubt Sarah's family had regarding her disappearance, and confirmed that Sarah didn't just willingly leave the van, but something terrifying forced her out. Basani was worried and became more and more disappointed by the pace of the police investigation, so she, alongside both of her sister's friends, decided to take matters into their own hands. The first step they decided to take was going through Sarah's computer to find any piece of evidence that could possibly point them to the reason behind her disappearance. Since the group had her computer's password, they easily logged into her social media accounts and discovered she had been communicating with a user named Lilia Truck on the dating app tagged. In fact, Lilia Truck was the last person she messaged. After saying hi to Sarah, he started asking if she wanted to make money, and then he offered to pay her $500 for some fun time. After the group had found this disturbing chat and even a couple of pictures in his profile, it only made them interested in finding out who was the guy behind these messages and who also could be behind Sarah's disappearance. So they came up with an idea. The idea was to create a fake account on the same dating app and try to connect with him. Luckily, within an hour, they weren't only able to find him, but they even started a conversation with him. He told them his name was Taj. They called him to arrange a meeting at a local Panera Bread restaurant, with Basani recording the whole phone call. Then they gave all the evidence they gathered to the police. And the day after, on the 26th of November, the time has come for them to meet with Taj. However, 2 officers were sent to meet with them, and when the officers spotted the man who they thought was Taj, they stopped them and identified him as Khalil Wheeler Weaver. He was asked a couple of questions regarding Sarah's disappearance. Khalil admitted that he was the one who made the account, and also admitted meeting up with Sarah on the 22nd. However, he insisted that when they went their separate ways, she was alive and well. After the officers asked him these questions, they let him go without an arrest. After all, they don't even know what could have happened to Sarah and whether she was alive or not, but they did consider him a person of interest, as he was the last to see her before she went missing. 5 days later, on the 1st of December, the authorities finally decided to track down Sarah's phone to where it was last used, and they found out that the last place her phone pinged off of was near Eagle Rock Reservation in West Orange, New Jersey, a 400-acre reserve. So they went to search the wooded area and were quickly able to make a gruesome discovery. Sarah's body was hidden under a pile of brush, and sweatpants were wrapped tightly around her neck, which showed she was strangled to death.
20-year-old Sarah Butler is from Montclair. Her Dodge Caravan was found in Orange. Her body later found at Eagle Rock Reservation in West Orange.
Sarah's autopsy was completed in the days following, and around the same time, Khalil was also arrested. Her autopsy showed a small amount of Khalil's DNA beneath her fingernails, suggesting she had fought him in her last moments. If all of this isn't enough proof, phone records showed that he was also in Eagle Rock Reservation at the time of Sarah's death. Unfortunately, things didn't stop here either, as it turned out that Sarah was only one of 4 victims, 3 of whom he murdered and only 1 survivor. He used the same pattern on each one of his victims and murdered them in brutal ways. His first victim was 19-year-old Robin West, who was murdered in September of 2016 and was found in an abandoned house which was set on fire. It's notably reported that Khalil was present at the scene of Robin's murder and was questioned by the police, and although phone records would later show he was at the same abandoned house they found Robin in, they were not able to make an arrest at the time of her murder. The second victim was 33-year-old Joanne Brown, who was last seen getting into Khalil's car and was also murdered and left in an abandoned house a month after Robin West. His third was the soon-known survivor, Tiffany Taylor, who provided a detailed testimony uncovering his usual pattern of handcuffing his victims and strangling them to death. She said that on the night of November 15th, she met Khalil, and they were supposed to drive to a quiet place to do what they wanted to do. Similar to Sarah's case, this was also for money. As they were driving, Khalil asked her to pull over, and when she did, he smacked her on her head, handcuffed her with duct tape, and essayed her. He was supposed to do what he usually does and kill her after, but but fortunately Tiffany was able to convince him to drive her back to the motel, as she claimed that she left her phone there, which contained evidence of their communication. Once there, she managed to slip her hands out of the handcuffs, ran into a room and locked them out, forcing him to take off. After the horrifying encounter, she called 911, and for some unknown reason, the responding officers didn't believe her story, even threatened her with arrest, and refused to remove the handcuffs dangling from her wrist for over an hour.
What injuries do you have?
Look at my face and the duct tape.
For the what?
From the duct tape, my face.
When did he duct tape you?
Huh?
In the car?
In the car.
So you let him duct tape you, or what happened? I just need to know.
He put the handcuffs on me first. He choked me out, and after choking me on him.
What was all happened in the car?
Yeah.
Where were you parked at this time?
The
gas station over there?
No, it was by the gas station. No.
Finally, due to the overwhelming amount of evidence they found, coupled with Tiffany and Basania's testimonies, Khalil was sentenced to 160 years in prison. Unlike Basania, the next case involves a sister who decided to avenge her brother's murder by killing.
She was avenging her brother's death, but as somebody that looks at situations as a whole, you could make a case that she's avenging two deaths.
Our second case is about Tatiana Coppage and her brother Jason. The siblings shared a childhood trauma which rooted from the tragic night of August 13th, 2016. In Kansas City, around 1:30 a.m., 6 children were sleeping at a home when it was suddenly sprayed with bullets. Among these children were 3 siblings. The oldest, 16-year-old Tatiana, 12-year-old Jason, and 9-year-old Jaden. During the shooting, 2 of them were hit, including Tatiana, who was only injured, and Jaden, who died in the arms of his older brother. Unfortunately, despite a significant reward for any information, whoever killed Jaden was never found. Although this incident deeply affected both of the siblings, it strengthened their bond, and Tatiana began playing a protective role in Jason's life, working long hours for him so he wouldn't have to seek fake love in the streets. And she actually succeeded in this, as they stayed close, with Jason even becoming a standout basketball player at his high school. Unfortunately, history would repeat itself, and a similar incident to the one that caused them trauma would take place 5 years after. On January 10th, 2021, police found the now 16-year-old Jason suffering from gunshot wounds inside a home in Paloma Avenue. Jason was immediately taken out to a hospital, but it was too late. Similar to the last time, the police failed to find any evidence. However, this time, a now 21-year-old Tatiana decided to start her own investigation and seek revenge for Jason. On the days following his murder, Tatiana posted on Facebook and said that although she worked hard for him to stay off the streets, she still felt like she had failed them. And after she asked locals around her neighborhood, she was finally able to figure out the car involved in her brother's killing, which belonged to a man named Keith Lars. It was specifically 3 days after Jason's murder on January 13th that Tatiana tracked Keith down and even texted her aunt asking for 45 caliber bullets. After finding his car, which he was inside, she followed his vehicle to a parking lot and confronted him while he was still inside, before shooting him in the chest and leg, killing him on spot. And not long after, authorities used witness accounts and surveillance footage to trace the black Ford Escape used in the shooting to Tatiana's home. Police also discovered a gun from her and successfully matched it to the 23 shell casings found at the scene. And if this wasn't enough evidence, they found many incriminating messages on her phone, like the one in which she asked her aunt for bullets and then sent her another text which read, "LOL, I used so many bullets on bro." But the most notable text she sent was to her brother Jason's phone, which stated, "Sent an expletive to my brother. I own that body." After Tatiana was caught, rappers like DaBaby and 42 Dugg posted that they would each pay $20,000 over a $200,000 bail. However, it was never publicly confirmed if the rappers actually followed through. While she was initially charged with second-degree murder and armed criminal action, Tatiana eventually pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. What follows next is a mother who decided to hunt down the 10 cartel members who kidnapped and killed their daughter.
It's almost implausible, but she single-handedly tracks them down one by one, hands her evidence to the police, and watches as the police have no choice but to imprison them.
It's the early 2010s in San Fernando, Tamaulipas, Mexico. The Los Zetas cartel was engaged in a brutal turf war with the Gulf cartel. The two cartels were fighting over control of the lucrative smuggling routes to the United States through Tamaulipas. And amidst the chaos of this war lived both a mother, Miriam Rodriguez, and her daughter, Karen Rodriguez. On a random day in 2012, Karen was driving when suddenly 2 trucks pulled up on both sides of her vehicle. She tried to lose them and merge into traffic, but they circled her car before two armed men got out and kidnapped her. After kidnapping Karen, they drove her to her family's house with an intention of robbing it while holding her hostage. However, after they went there, a mechanic who was supposed to work on a broken truck arrived, and the armed men decided to kidnap the mechanic as well and fled with both in a panic. The Los Zetas cartel asked Karen's family for a $77,000 ransom, which Miriam and her family didn't hesitate to pay. But despite the family paying this huge amount of money, and with Miriam going to the extent of meeting with a Los Zetas member called Sama, who said the cartel didn't know where her daughter was, but promised he could help her find Karen for $2,000, which she also paid. Despite all of the efforts, Karen wasn't released nor found. It's said that during her captivity, Karen was used as a boxing bag for the kidnappers. At that time, the Los Zetas didn't realize that they were committing a fatal mistake, since Miriam would go after almost each one of her daughter's kidnappers. As time passed, Miriam began to lose hope in finding her daughter alive. Even the police refused to investigate or help with anything, so Miriam decided to move on her own. During her relentless investigation, which lasted for many years, Miriam was able to know that the mechanic who was kidnapped with her daughter was released, as they couldn't extort any money from him or his family. So she decided to go and press him for the description of the kidnappers, and by the description the mechanic gave, she knew that Sama, the guy who said he would help her find her daughter, was actually one of the kidnappers. After knowing for sure that Sama was involved, she spent months searching Facebook for any mention of his name, before she eventually found a photograph of a man matching his description standing next to a woman in a specific ice cream shop uniform. Mariam was able to locate the ice cream shop and had to stalk the shop for weeks before she spotted the woman and eventually Sama. After finding the couple, she decided to follow them and see where they would go. Luckily, they were headed home, and after being able to mark Sama's house, she came up with a plan, which was to disguise herself as a government official and go around Sama's block to take surveys. She then cut and dyed her hair to make sure Sama wouldn't be able to recognize her, and finally started taking surveys from Sama's whole block. She did all of this to confirm his identity and routine. Finally, on September 16th, 2014, more than 2 years after Karen was kidnapped, Sama made it even easier for Miriam when he was spotted by Miriam's son Louis at his shop. After Sama had left, Louis closed the shop and started following him while he called the police. Sama got caught, and Miriam was present during his interrogation, in which he started confessing that he was a part of the abduction and even started mentioning the names and locations of his accomplices. One of the people he mentioned was 18-year-old Christian Gonzalez. When Christian was brought in, he said he was hungry, and surprisingly upon hearing this, Miriam gave him her own lunch. Frightened by the police while softened by Miriam's kindness, he confessed to his involvement and led authorities to the ranch where victims' bodies were buried, finally providing the closure the mother fought for. After a mass excavation at this abandoned ranch Christian took them to, authorities discovered a ton of dead bodies scattered across the property. One of these bodies was Karen's. This discovery of her daughter's remains only fueled Miriam for revenge, as she was able to hunt down 8 more members. Some of them tried to repent or blend back into society, like the member who left his past life and became a florist. She spent years chasing him before she was able to finally locate him, and when she went to catch him, he recognized her and fled. Surprisingly, Miriam didn't give up, as she tackled him and held onto his back for nearly an hour before the police arrived. Another example of the members she caught was when she recalled a strange encounter with an old neighbor named Elvia Uliza at a nearby restaurant, which was exactly 2 days after her daughter's kidnapping. When Miriam started looking into her, her research revealed Elvia was romantically linked to one of the kidnappers, and police later confirmed that ransom calls were made from Elvia's home. While avenging her daughter, Miriam realized that hundreds of other families in Tamaulipas were suffering in silence due to the Los Zetas cartel's terror. She also knew that most of these families were let down by the police just like her. That's why she founded the Collective of the Disappeared. At its peak, the collective represented nearly 600 families. Unfortunately, by 2017, many of the people she caught escaped prison, and around that same time, Miriam was assassinated outside her home on Mother's Day that same year. Our last case is also of a mother vigilante who killed her daughter's and killed her in the middle of a courtroom. Many of you may have seen this clip, which shows a woman who suddenly took out a gun and started shooting her daughter's killer before 2 officers ran towards her to try and control the situation. A sudden move out of revenge shook Germany for years after that happened, but what really pushed Mariam Bakimaier to shoot her daughter's killer 6 times in a courtroom full of witnesses without really thinking of any consequences. Mariam Bakimaier was a single mother in her late 20s, living in West Germany with her 7-year-old child Anna. Their lifestyle was difficult and unconventional, as Marianne worked at a pub which she used to frequently take Anna to during the nights while she worked. In the day, however, Anna was left completely unsupervised and was expected to wake herself up for school while her mom slept to be ready for work the next night. As a result of being mostly left alone and being treated like a little adult, Anna was forced to be independent yet rebellious. On the 4th of May 1980, Marianne and Anna got into a big argument, and to express her anger, Anna decided to skip school the next day. After she did, she decided to visit her friend, and on her way there, she met their neighbor, Klaus Grabowski, a 35-year-old butcher whose home she had visited before to play with his cats. Klaus was able to lure Anna into his apartment with the promise that he would let her play with his cats. However, he clearly had other sinister intentions. What Anna and even her mom didn't know about Klaus is that he was a convicted offender. Once Anna got into his apartment, Klaus held her captive for several hours, during which he essayed Anna and ended her life before packing her body in a cardboard box which was dumped on the shore of a nearby canal. Klaus confessed his disgusting actions to his fiancée, who immediately left his apartment and reported everything to the police, and Klaus was arrested shortly after. Klaus confessed to the murder of Anna, however he blamed her for what happened. It was 7 months later when his second trial started. Klaus' defense team began arguing that he acted during a period of hormonal imbalance, which was caused by the voluntary castration he underwent during his prior defense convictions. However, it's noted that he was later given hormone replacement therapy to reverse the effects after his release. Klaus' defense team claimed that this imbalance led to the violent outburst. In addition to his attorney's absurd argument, Klaus himself started blaming the victim, saying that when they met down the street, Anna tried to blackmail him for money and threatened to tell her mother he had done inappropriate things to her. Klaus said that after being blackmailed, he got frightened, so he decided to kill the girl to silence her. These ridiculous claims made by Klaus and his defense continued for 2 days. Marianne, on the other hand, is getting more and more fed up with what they had to say about her deceased daughter. On the third day of the trial, the 6th of March 1981, Marianne made a final decision that it was time to take matters into her own hands. She successfully smuggled a gun into the courtroom, and once she saw Klaus sitting in front of the judge, she stood up, reached into her purse, pulled out the gun, and fired 8 shots, 6 of which hit his back and immediately ended his life. Policemen rapidly gathered around her, while she said, "Unfortunately, I only got the pig from behind. I wanted to shoot him in the face, but I shot him in the back. I hope he's dead." When she was later taken into custody, she stated, "I did it for you, Anna." This incident attracted intense attention. Over a year after her revenge, in her trial, she explained that her actions were triggered by Klaus' testimony, in which he claimed that Anna had attempted to blackmail him. She stated, "I couldn't let him lie about Anna. I just couldn't." Marianne was then convicted of manslaughter and illegal firearm possession, serving 3 years of a 6-year sentence.